How's it going, everyone? Welcome back into the channel. Today I want to bring you a tier list for the best budget decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Post Doom of Dimensions. I have a list of 25 incredible budget options for you, but I can't cover every single one. So if you hear a budget deck that is not on this video, then let me know down in the comments below and I will bring you a discussion about that in the comments and let you know where I think that deck falls. Now, these are decks that you can get for about $100 or so, and there's going to be some strategies you see that may play some cards that are more expensive, but you can actually build the deck in its entirety without these super pricey cards for less than $100. Now, as always, I have 5 tiers here. I have best of the best. This is going to be for your best options for the budget strategies. I have top tier potential. These are going to be for decks that could break into the top tier of competitive play. I have has a chance as being a strong option that could compete, but may not see so as consistently. We then have better options for strategies that are missing something and are just not strong enough in the format right now. And finally, we have not good. These are for decks that just are not very good right now. So what we have here, 25 decks starting off, of course. Before we do that, just do me a favor, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But with that being said, here are the top budget decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Post Doom of Dimensions. Now, first off, we have Blue Eyes White Dragon. Now, I think Blue Eyes is, as a whole, falling down in popularity as time goes on in this format. Just really isn't as strong, especially is the case when you have a budget Blue Eyes deck, because it means you can't play as many of the Primite cards. You can't afford to play 3 copies of Ether Barrel and 3 copies of Lordly Load. You have to be able to split that up amongst other cards. So what does that mean? Well, you definitely can't play copies of Dominus Purge, so where would I put Blue Eyes? I would say that Blue Eyes goes into the has a chance tier. It's a really solid deck that has a chance to top a regional, a YCS, but is not going to be doing so very consistently, especially if you can't play these power cards, these more consistent pieces like the Ether Barrel, like the Drill Beam, like the Purge. Oh, not the Drill Beam, but the Lordly Load, I should say. Next up, we have Branded Despia. I think this is going to go top tier potential right away. I think there's so much you can do with Branded Despia because right now we only have 2 copies of Branded Fusion. Eventually we'll get that 3rd one back. We are getting a structure deck with more branded support, so you never know. There could be a lot of potential for Branded Despia. The deck does a lot of really cool things, but the biggest problem with this strategy, in my opinion, is that right now the deck kind of is so heavily focused on its engine that it has to rely very much on that and not so much on the non-engine unless you're playing a 60 card pile. And if you do that, you're not going to be as consistent with your strategy. You're not going to find the Branded Fusion as often or your power cards as often. But if Branded Despia goes off, it can be absolutely terrifying to deal with. Just a really solid strategy overall. Next up is Dinomorphia. I think this is going to go in the better options tier. I kind of want to put it into not good, but I do think it actually has the ability to compete, assuming you're going to be able to draw the right half of your deck. Make sure you draw your trap cards, get your fusion summons online. It's just a solid option nonetheless. The limit to Solemn Judgment, I do think actually hurts the deck quite a bit because it's such a good card in that strategy, but it's still, again, a solid choice nonetheless as a solid trap deck. I also think Trapaholic is also a solid card in that strategy as well. That's a new card and it's not too expensive either. Next up is Exosister. I want to put Exosister into has a chance, but I think it's going to go to better options. And the reason why I would say it's going to better options right now is because the strategy itself did get a buff with Doom of Dimensions. There's a new spirit monster that came out in that set, and it's actually quite strong. I forgot the name of it off the top of my head, but I'll try and post a picture of it on screen right now. Basically, what it does is it allows you to get like a second normal summon, assuming you have a monster with 800 attack or defense on field, and then you can also search for a monster with 800 attack or defense. And Martha just so happens to be one of those cards, which is obviously fantastic. It helps you get into your Xyz summons very quickly and easily, and also gets you additional consistency and extra bodies. It's a phenomenal card that really boosts Exosister, but right now I just don't think it's as strong in the format as other decks could be. And we are seeing Nib being quite popular this format as well, and this deck has always had a difficult time dealing with Nibiru. Up next, Fire King. I want to put Fire King in best of the best, but it will not go there. It will go into top tier potential. And the reason why is exactly because you need to have Dominus Impulse to make this deck into the best of the best tier. But if you play just a really solid engine, if you play your 3 copies of Ponix, Garunix, Alkanix, Kirin, you have your copy of your Jurak monsters, of course. The Jurak cards are incredible in this deck, and you're obviously playing your Super Polys as well, then you're in a good spot. But again, without Impulse, you're losing out on one of, if not the best hand trap this deck has to offer, so you really have to rely on your engine, and the engine is not as strong as other ones in the format today. But if you already have Impulses, then yeah, shove this into best of the best. But for now, top tier potential. Gem Knight is up next. Now, this is specifically a going second version of Gem Knight. It basically is just rock Tenpai, and it's quite strong. I think there's a lot of value here. I want to put it into best of the best because if your opponents do not expect you to be on Gem Knight, you can OTK quite easily. I think it's a really strong choice in the format and actually will have a lot of success. We saw it top a YCS recently. We saw it top regionals multiple times over, and it's a deck that will see success. Is just a good option when you're not expecting it, or when it's not expecting the meta, I should say. But it still is a good choice for locals, for regionals, and for YCSs and so on. If you want to play an aggressive OTK strategy that focuses on going second, that isn't exactly Tenpai Dragon. Up next is going to be Goblin Biker. This is specifically a pure Goblin Biker deck. I'll put this into Has a Chance here. I think it's a really solid deck. Overall, it allows you to take advantage of all the Exceeds that's happening right now. Basically, every single one of your Goblin Bikers has the effect where they can detach from an Exceeds on field, which is really good, especially into all these decks that play Exceeds monsters, like the Doom Z archetype, and of course your Canine archetype. If you're playing against pure Canine, the effect of Ripper, sure, it can negate the effect of your Dug Charger in hand to special summon itself, but you're forcing the material off of it, which allows you to free up other opportunities to interrupt the opponent and to build a really scary board. And I think that Goblin Biker as a whole is really good. And of course, Big Gobonga attaching cards to it as interruption is also really strong because it's a non-destruction form of removal, which is obviously really powerful. Kashtira, pure Kashtira at that. I actually am putting pure Cash in not good. I don't think the strategy is very good right now. I think the deck lost so much without the ability to have a Rise Heart. The strategy as a pure deck, it sets up like rank 7s and then relies on like its main deck monsters for interruptions, and it's just not as strong as it once was. I think that if you're going to be pairing with a bunch of hand traps, it gets better, but it loses out so much value. It's just a deck that is missing a lot. But you better believe the second a Rise Heart gets unlimited, this deck goes straight into best of the best as a budget option because a Rise Heart is just that good of a card. But again, for now, not good. Labrynth. I think Labrynth goes into the Has a Chance tier. The deck is really solid. The engine is powerful. You can play a more trap-heavy version. You can play a more combo-heavy version with the Kuklocks and the Chandragliers and the Stovey Torbys and so on. It's just a deck that has a lot of potential, but it's not at that level that the other decks are going to be. I think it really falls in the Has a Chance tier. It did get support with Trapaholic, of course, but other than that, it's just basically Labrynth as it's been for the past however many years. Next up, Lunalight. This definitely goes into best of the best. Lunalight as a whole is a budget deck. The entire engine itself is extremely low cost. The only expensive cards in the strategy that they play are exactly Dominus Impulse, which is optional as a hand trap, and then Heavy Polymerization, which is like a $20 card. But the rest of the strategy, if you look at it, it's very low cost. Liger Dancer was like a super rare in its sets. You have obviously all the, of course, there's also Gold Leo. I should mention that. Gold Leo is like a $15 card. But if you're playing 3 copies of Gold Leo and your Liger Dancer, you can definitely fit a copy or 2 of Heavy Polymerization, which is a really good card in the strategy. But I think Liger Dancer as a whole is such a powerful card, and having access to it in a deck that is as consistent as Lunalight is, even on a budget, means it's one of the better, if not the best, budget options right now. Next up is Maliss. Again, same issue with Lunalight where you're not really playing specifically Impulse, and that weakens your strategy a lot. And you'll notice that a lot of these decks that are here, they want to play Impulse. Like Labrynth wants to play Impulse, but it can't really. So what does it do instead? Well, it plays a bunch of other traps. Fire King, same thing. Lunalight, same deal. So what do you have here with Maliss? Well, you have a deck that goes in the top tier potential. It's a really strong option in the format right now, and pretty much everything in this deck has been made budget, I would say. The entire archetype has been reprinted in the Megatins, and with the exception of the March Hare, which is like a $15 to $20 card right now. So you can play 3 copies of March Hare, and you can play your copies of Backup Adagnister, which is like a $5 card from what I'm seeing as well. It's a deck that actually has a lot of potential going forward, and because it's not really in the format as heavily right now, at least in the TCG, it's not seeing as much side deck hate. We're not seeing as many copies of Lancia, which just completely annihilate the strategy. I do believe that Maliss has a lot of potential, and if you had access to Impulse, it would again go right here, but for now, I'll put it into top tier potential. Melodious is up next. It's a good deck. It can play main deck Herald of Orange Light, Herald of Green Light, which are all solid options. It can build a really scary board, and the main deck Melodious monsters are crazy. It's just missing something. It's not as strong as it could be, and I do think I would rather play I'd rather play... I'm debating right now if I want to put it in Has a Chance or better options. I think for now, I'll put into Has a Chance and just above Labrynth I'd put it. I do these in alphabetical order, so just don't mind me, but I would definitely say it's a better deck than Labrynth. Probably a better deck than Goblin Biker, but I do think it's missing something, and you want to play Purge with this strategy, and you can't really do so. So again, it's definitely something to consider. Memento is up next. I think Memento goes into best of the best 100%. I've been loving playing Memento right now. I think it's such a phenomenal strategy. It does have some issues with consistency at times. It really wants to play the Canine package, but you don't have to. And the deck without the Canine package is still incredibly strong. You have a good package of Memento monsters. You have a lot of 1-card starters. You have a lot of great 2-card starters or 2-card combos in general. You can dodge interruption. Your end boards are crazy strong. And even though you don't have Moon, so you can't bridge into the Fiendsmith line as consistently anymore, you still have a really good build for your strategy that is able to break boards effectively and deal with a lot of ways to break your own board too. I think it's just a good, strong strategy overall. It does have a bit of a harder time though with the Canine decks. Next up is going to be Mermail. Mermail goes into top tier potential. Yes, it really wants to play something like Impulse, but you don't have to. You don't have to at all. The deck is able to effectively deal with a lot of the threats in the format right now. You have ways to hand loop the opponent with Moonland Glacia. You can get your water statue up on the field as well. Abyss Dweller being gone hurts the deck, but also helps the deck. It's just a really interesting situation for Mermail, and the deck is extremely budget right now. Everything has been reprinted, so it's just a deck that everyone should be potentially considering as a strategy going forward. Millenium is up next. I'm going to put Millenium into the better options tier. I think it's missing something. The fact that it has to play all 5 pieces of Exodia really hurts it. If you're going to play like Sengenjin and the Millennium Shield and the copies of Wedju Temple and the Golem as an engine itself to be able to get like Snake Eyes Doom Dragon on the field and keep building your board that way, that's one option to consider. But playing just like pure Millenium as like an OTK strategy or relying on the big unstoppable Exodia plus the trap and like hand traps, it's not as good as it needs to be. It's not as consistent, it's not as powerful as it is a turn 1 board to deal with, especially because in the format right now, we're seeing a lot of people play some kaijus to deal with Lunalight. So if you slap down your big Exodia monster and you have the trap relies on having the big Exodia monster on the field. So if they just like kaiju it, then your turn is really amounts to nothing. So I think it's a deck that just falls down for that reason. Purrely, also better options. I think it's definitely a better strategy when you pair it with something like Yummy, but Yummy is definitely not a budget deck. I think Purrely has some utility, and Purrely Noir is a great card, but it's the same issue as Lunalight and the same issue as Millenium, where your opponent can just kaiju it, and then you worked so hard to build up your Purrely Noir, and now it's gone. So I think Purrely just definitely falls below that into the better options tier. Next up is Radiant Typhoon. Now, I have been trying. I've been trying to build a Radiant Typhoon deck and showcase it on the channel and combos and everything. And there are legitimate combos this deck can do. But as a pure strategy, I don't think it's very good. I think you can have a lot of fun with this deck. It's got some room for it to grow. And I think eventually it'll get more support, and the quick play spells are great. It's just not as good as it needs to be. The big guy, the Ponix or Phonix, whatever it's called, the big bird you see here as the icon is a solid card. It's a good interruption. You have the one that's 3,000 defense. That's like a little whale or whatever it is. That guy's a negate. You obviously have the trap that makes MST into a negate itself, but it's just not good on its own. Maybe paired with another archetype like Runic, it's not terrible, but I just think there's better ways to go about it, and I just don't see it being that good right now. Next up, Ryzeal. Ryzeal as a pure option, or even as, I guess, an Onomat Ryzeal deck, are quite strong because as budget decks go, this is completely affordable. Like, unlike something like Maliss, where March Hare and backup make up like $60 of value, you don't really have to worry about that as much with the Ryzeal. And I think that Ryzeal is very good. I think you can technically pair it with Mitsurugi still, even without King of the Fairy Realms being legal. I actually think that for a budget deck, I'd rather play budget Ryzeal over something like majority of the decks in top tier potential, but I don't think it's as good as best of the best, but it definitely goes up there into top tier potential. Snake Eye is going to go in better options. There's a universe where Snake Eye can do work. It's just not going to be right now. You're missing OSS, which means that Diabellstar is not a starter for you, which definitely hurts. You lose your biggest power push. Poplar on its own doesn't really do anything because best case scenario, it gets the field spell, and then what do you do from there? You can't really send Poplar to graveyard to get other copies like Snake Eye Ash and Oak and Flamberge and so on. It's just a deck that lost so much, not only with the banning of OSS, but the banning of Moon as well. Next up is Spright. This goes into has a chance. It can build a really scary board. It doesn't actually start a chain with anything, so it really doesn't need to worry too much about the K9 cards as well. It sets up a good interruption, good negation. The biggest issue is one of the biggest weaknesses for this strategy is a card like Dark Ruler No More. Even cards like Raigeki and Dark Hole can be quite strong against this deck as well. And those cards are all seeing a lot of play right now to deal with something like Yummy, which is projected to be one of the best decks, if not the best deck. So I think it does have a bit of an issue with that there. Swordsoul here is not good. I don't think Swordsoul has the ability to compete anymore. It's too normal summon reliant. It's really not as strong into interruption. And the fact that this deck is playing very fair Yu-Gi-Oh, it just hurts quite a bit. It does have the ability to play a ton of hand traps, but the hand traps it plays are not going to be as impactful as other decks could be. For example, it's not playing cards like Dominus Impulse, which is arguably the best hand trap, if not the best one. It also has a hard time playing good non-engine like Super Polymerization because you really want to go for synchro plays very heavily, and your extra deck is kind of tight. I just think it's a strategy that has lost a lot of its ability, but it still is a good option for certain situations. If you want to play at locals, you absolutely can. I just would keep it in the not good tier for the time being. Next up, Tenpai goes into better options. It's just worse Gem Knight right now. The deck losing access to pretty much all of its consistency pieces really hurts. I believe it's now Chandra at 1, Kaiman at 1, Summoning all at 1. Really, really hurts the strategy. I think there's other hits to it as well, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I played Tenpai. But the deck itself does have the ability to still OTK. It's just nowhere near as consistent as it once was, and it's not as easy to OTK anymore as it once was. That's Tenpai. Next up is Voiceless Voice. You can actually pair Voiceless Voice with Ryzeal and have a really solid strategy. The deck itself is just too fair. Again, that's kind of the issue. I want to put it into not good. As a pure deck, it's not good. If you're pairing with like Ryzeal or something, I'd put it into better options. There's just other things that you can do. Do I want to put in better options? It's one of the biggest issues this deck has had in the past, by the way, is Detonator specifically, because when you're activating your fields or your continuous spell, your continuous traps, your opponent can just go Detonator Pop. And then the spell is negated, doesn't really do anything for you. It also has a harder time dealing with something like Droll and Lockbird, and with something like the Skull Guardian being your negate, you have to have a low on the field for it to be a negate, and if your opponent just kaiju something, then what are you really doing at that point? It just weakens everything drastically. I want to put in has a chance, but it's going to stick into better options. Next up, we have the White Forest deck. I love White Forest. One of my favorite strategies. It's a very budget deck right now. The only really expensive cards are the Witch of the White Forest, the field spell, which you're not necessarily playing at 3 copies, and of course, Elzet Azamina, which I think is like a $10 card. I definitely believe this has a lot of potential, and I think for a budget deck, you really don't lose that much by having this deck be budget, be at $100 or less. You can play the deck very effectively. It puts up a really scary end board, has a hard time going second. I'm going to put it into top tier potential. I think it's got a lot of potential and could do a lot of work this format. The issue is Droll hurts. Fuwa loss on the opponent's turn, or rather when you're going second. If you're trying to play against your opponent to try and interrupt them and they go for Fuwa loss, that could hurt as well. So definitely something to consider. And then finally we have Yubel. Losing Moon hurts. There's a world where you can't access the Fiendsmith line in general, and that definitely affects it. I think the strategy can still put up some crazy negates, some crazy interruptions. It's just kind of fallen off. It's been power creep that's been the issue, so I'm going to go ahead and put it into the not good tier for the time being. And that's it. That's my tier list. I'm hoping you guys look at the list and say, you know what? I get it. I see the sauce. I see what he's cooking here. And if you don't, let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what you don't agree with, what you do agree with. Let me know if I missed anything, and I will answer all the comments in the comment section as well. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like on the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't already, and I will see you all next time.